Let's see if we can get this. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully this will work out now that I'm getting to my point. Okay. So we're talking about millennials. I am not a boomer, so I am actually I think I'm what Gen X or something like that. Isn't that what it is? Anyway, you're born in this 1960s. All right, so I think I'm Gen X. X. So anyway, um uh what what were we talking about? There's been a lot of bashing of millennials. And okay, and if you have a millennial, you might have heard this. And I know that a lot of people um have millennials. A lot of people my age raised millennials, and they really do have a difficult time understanding. 'Cause there seems to be, when I was young, it's the generation gap. Anybody over 60 is, I'm sorry, anybody over 30 is like old, and they're just, you know, they're not groovy. They're not, uh, I don't remember. I was a kid, and during the go-go years and the 1960s, I was, a child. And I don't even think I was in school in the 1960s. It was the 70s before I actually went to school. But is that right? Anyway, uh, so but I do remember go-go boots and Annette Funicello and the beach movies, and I actually remembering it, as your kid, pretty fun. But I also thought it was incredibly immoral, very immoral time was the 60s and 70s, just awful. Anyway, they all claimed this great generation gap, and then we didn't hear anything about it. And now I'm almost thinking we've got that same one. There was such a shift in culture between, the 70s and the 80s and 90s that it's almost like, and of course, the millennials are called millennials because, they were born um, during that changeover. So, anyway, one of the things I want to talk about, some of the things I've noticed that's wildly different because of something that just happened in our family. Um, Millennials have a very different humor than we do. They don't think we're funny, and they think we're awful because of I know that our humor tends to be much darker. We tend to be very much into telling jokes and trying to be lighthearted, and I'm not even sure it's lighthearted, but we like to be funny. Our kids can get really upset with us because they don't think we take life seriously. They think that, we're always making a joke. And I come from a family very much like that. And a lot of my friends are like that too. So you may not relate to this. And if you don't, then just, you can just listen to what's weird. So if you think it's weird, but okay. So I've been trying to analyze why, and you can help me. If you can figure this out, I would love to hear what you have to say. Okay. So I grew up watching like Gilligan's Island, and that was the most recent thing. And I think it was in reruns when we watched it. But what we mainly watched was I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, Leave It to Beaver. A lot of these shows were on reruns, and they had been filmed in, I don't know when was, maybe the late 40s, 50s, something like that. And so what was put in our brain was life from that time. And of course, when we were little, it was a huge slapstick comedy, like Gilligan's Island, very slapstick. The Three Stooges, very slapstick. Let's see. I'm trying to think of another one that would um Dick Van Dyke. had its moment. Dick Van Dyke was very slapstick, but not necessarily the show. His show wasn't necessary, but the first thing he does when he starts the theme show is he trips over the ottoman. So anyway, we grew up where pain was funny. We were brought up laughing at pain. I notice that a lot of the millennials and those after them do not like slapstick. These kids sit in front of oh dear, I'm unstable again. Okay, good. So I think that's one thing they don't understand about us. I'm not huge into slapstick comedy, but I understand it. I don't get, oh, why in the world would anyone laugh over, you know, the dog stepping out, the little man being in jail, and then he finally digs his way out of jail just to fall into something else, you know. Um, but it's another thing is other ones we watched were I already told you, I Love Lucy, Hogan's Heroes, um, and if when I was really young, they had on Saturday nights really late, like at 11 or something, they would have reruns of The Honeymooners, and so I grew up hearing it, and let me tell you, you learned to laugh over not just slapstick, I'm sorry, insulting humor. So, I'm trying to remember who is that guy from, what is his name? You know, Slam Bang to the Moon, Alice. And see, that was like before my dad's time. So that was an old, comedy. But we would watch it. See, those would be reruns, and that's what we watched because we didn't get to choose what we wanted to watch. There were just 3 channels, and you watched what was on it, and they did reruns, a lot of old reruns. So you just didn't get a chance. So everybody was laughing at insulting humor. I'm trying to think of the guy's name, and he was on, um not Hogan's Heroes. He was on Get Smart, and he was a super insulting, um, I'm sorry, I'm getting messages. I am not good at doing 2 things anymore. So anyway, um, so they don't understand our humor because we laugh at insults and we laugh at but we're playing. And when we laugh at broken people, not really breaking themselves, but, comedy that has to do with falling and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, okay, now so that is part of it, that we were raised around different humor. But why was it funny? And when Hollywood produced these sitcoms and cartoons and stuff for us, divorce was not the norm. Even though after World War II, there was a great instability, and all of a sudden, um, divorce skyrocketed. The people that produced these shows came from a time when it was stable. They have the memories, and even if they didn't, they had the memories of what it was stable. And so, um, I looked up the statistics, and now this I can't believe it. I got this statistic, and it was right before we went live. It said in the 1930s, the divorce rate in the United States was approximately 2 divorces per 1,000 marriages. 2 divorces among 1,000. I remember it being good, but I don't remember it being that good. My goodness, that's nothing. Okay. Now in today's world, about 43%, this is a statistic from 2024, 43% of first marriages end in divorce, while the rates are higher for subsequent marriages, around 60% for second marriages and 73 for third marriages, and that's actually what shoots the entire thing up. When you see it, when you hear that it's about 50-50 in America, it's really not. It's about if you've gotten divorced and you're going to get remarried, that throws the statistics off because sometimes they get remarried more than one time. Okay. And so we had a very stable world. Men stuck with their jobs. There was a middle class, and there was a lot of stability. And so when you made a joke, you no one's going to get a divorce over it. People were just I don't want to say more calloused. Okay, but this is how I want to say it. Okay, their lives had been a lot. Okay, the millennials are different because their lives have been a lot more cushioned in some ways and much more exposed to evil in other ways. Ours was the opposite. When I grew up, we were very not cushioned. We were sent outside to play and we had to find our own lunch. Mom, was going to make dinner. You'd go get cereal for breakfast and then yes. You know, whatever you did, you could run back, you could run inside and make your own peanut butter and jelly sandwich, if your mom, if you could get into the house. And but dinner was a big deal. There was always a family dinner, at least in our house. And but so we were exposed to a lot of things that had to make us responsible, and we had to learn a lot about us living maybe kind of street smart. And but we were very much sheltered from evil. You know, uh, there was a lot of censorship on television and in books and you were not exposed to evil. Now, almost all of the people in the Generation X, let's just put it that way, we all came across porn. You know, an uncle had it, or somebody had it in their bathroom or whatever it was, and you always but it was maybe once or twice, that was it. It was not continual by any stretch. And so now that these millennials and after them, these people were exposed on a regular basis to soft porn and even way more than soft porn. You can now, I mean, kids. They said that kids are exposed to porn, hardcore porn, like once a month from the time they're 12. I mean, it's really horrific now. So while we were allowed to burn ourselves, break a leg falling out of the tree, maybe jumping a bike over several kids, the generation millennials were really protected by helicopter parents. We kind of protected our kids. Many of us did. For the physical, we were less protective of them morally. Now, I homeschooled, so I was one of those very few that, and a lot of my friends, I just said, "Why are you letting them watch that? Don't you why would you let them?" And they said, "Oh, well, we survived it." That was maybe you guys didn't hear it out there who's non-Adventist, but I can tell you the Adventists in Keene allowed their kids to do they were twice as wild as my non-Adventist friends in Dallas. Uh, there I can't even tell you how their parents were in some kind of Adventist la la land. They said, "Oh, this could never happen to our children." And they just allowed for a ton of very bad stuff to happen because they weren't paying attention. They were looking up, waiting for the Lord to come. So anyway, but even so, even at that, even though we ended up being a very wild group, those that were raised in the 70s and 80s, we calmed down by the 90s. We were like, hey, we want to go straight. Where the millennials and stuff. Now, I will tell you, the millennials they're very interesting because they got mad at us for being what they considered irresponsible, and we sent them off to college because that's what we were told to do. That's what everybody wanted to do. That's how you survived, and you didn't have your life uh, taken out from under you. You could have children, and mom got to stay home if you got a college degree. Whereas now all these kids are just strapped because we encouraged our kids to go to college. But like when I was a kid, and when I went to school for 2 years, and what was it, like $5,000 a year to go to college, and you could get it paid off. Literally, the first semester, I went to college for 1 semester, then I took off a semester and paid for it. Then I went back to school and I tried to do it that way. And so it wasn't so much I just that's the way it was. And so anyway, one other thing is that kids, and I don't want to be too mean because and I'm understanding. You were indoctrinated to think you were smarter than your parents, and it started in my generation. The X, the X generation, whatever Generation X. I just got through reading a book by, uh, what's his name? Inside. I'm looking at trying to see it. Inside America's Education. Thomas Sowell. I just read it, and it spanned 1970s to 1990s, and how the American education system collapsed into indoctrination, a political and uh, progressive indoctrination, and everything had it in it. Even if you didn't realize it, even if it was written to make kids believe they were smarter than their parents. Excuse me. I don't know. Is that like a thing you don't do? You don't stop and take a drink? I don't watch enough YouTube to know. um, but I have to have a drink. Okay. So these kids think that they're as smart as their parents. And they've been indoctrinated to do that. And so don't they don't have a lot of experience in life, but they're constantly wanting to gain it, and they don't want their parents' interference because they're here in their 30s and they haven't experienced anything hard. And I mean really hard. They have not tested their strengths to know what they're made of. Their characters have not been developed like ours were to a much more extent. Not to say that we didn't have it pretty easy. We had it pretty easy. But they now want to go out and have the experience of testing their characters and being in charge of their own life and feeling like they're the adventure of life. They feel like, okay, now I got to go out and have some adventure. And so they don't want us to get involved. I think they blame us for a lot of what's going on that's wrong in the world. So they think in their mind, you guys messed up. You guys really messed us all up. You're the reason America is horrible, as you baby boomers, the next generation. Um, and so why should we listen to you? We're gonna try to go on our own. And I mean, there is a portion of that that's actually true. I don't think that post World War II, the generation that survived that was interested in then putting in the extreme suffering to become wise for their grandchildren. I think they thought, okay, it's our time to have fun. So anyway, they they uh they really didn't become the people that their children could look up to. Now, even if parents were, a lot of children were put in school for so long, they were not connected to their parents' suffering. We had such a golden age after that. America economically did so well in the 50s and 60s and even 70s. I don't care about, Carter and his I lived survived those years. Yes, they were hard. But there was these oh, I just think that well, I'm sorry. Again, I'm my rolls are about to be done. There we go. Got two things going on in my mind, and actually three at the same time, so I'm getting them all mixed up. But anyway, so I'm gonna have to go get those rolls out. But I want um, to just tell you, I love the millennials. We need to be good, wise people for them. And maybe they will learn to be and life is gonna humble them. Unfortunately, life humbles us all. We all have to go through, things, and so these, millennials are going to learn, and we need to understand there's just a great gap between us, and just we need to talk and ask questions and figure out where this miscommunication is going. Okay. And I don't know, maybe I should just stop right now. We're at 20 minutes. I think I'm gonna stop and I'm gonna get my rolls out of the oven, and then I wanna talk about I'm gonna come back on live, and I wanna talk about the thing I kept hearing over and over and over growing up. Don't study your way out of the church. Don't study your way out of the church. Okay, so I will get back on in just a few minutes after I've gotten my rolls. I may even have a little bite and see what they taste like. And I will come back and we'll talk about that. Okay, you guys, if I don't see you again, bye and have a wonderful day. But stay tuned. And we're going to talk about studying your way out of Christianity.